Welcome back to Beyond Resistance Pod, where we share hard-won insights to build blue power and red communities and start winning. I'm Sarah Schultz.
And I'm Jennifer Austin.
And it's just the two of us today talking about a lot of interesting stuff. And Jennifer, what has you fired up?
Okay. So this will be near and dear to your heart, but I don't know if our listeners are going to care. But that's okay. As Sarah and I have stated, we are data nerds. We love spreadsheets. We love bar graphs and line charts and all the stuff. So I started, now that we've been doing this for almost a full year, I started going back and like calculating our listener, how our listener growth is happening, and also going to our social media and seeing how that growth is happening and adding it into spreadsheets and whatnot. And I'm just excited to see it grow. And that our listeners may not care about that, but it is exciting to us to see that we are gaining listeners and our social media is getting more attention, and just we're making connections with other people that are sharing their stuff with us and we're sharing with them, and just kind of working together and making kind of a network of people doing this work, trying to help each other and then everybody around us.
Awesome. And like, I mean, that's something for us to be fired up about because we've been doing this work for so long. But like, the main thing is that what we're trying to do is just like help people learn from our experiences, right? So the more folks that are listening, the more folks that are learning and sharing, we do all this work and we put it out in the world, and just sincere about, hoping that folks who are just getting started in this space have more of a foundation to stand on than we did when we were just getting started in this space. And so that's exciting. It's worth getting fired up about. Is folks who are, listening more and getting the message is pretty cool. So thanks for sharing that. I can't wait to see the pie chart.
Well,
that's related to it.
Yeah. I'm still working on some, because things have changed. Like, we started mostly on YouTube, and then we were on, then we started getting on social media, or excuse me, on streaming services. And like YouTube, the numbers were really, really high. But then if you go look and see, it's not people listening for very long. And I'm like, I don't care who listened for 5 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, if they listened for a couple minutes and then left, I'd almost rather they weren't even on there. So I'm trying to, figure out what the numbers actually are for real listeners. So I'm working on it.
Okay. All right. Well, whatever it is, if we can get it in pie chart shape or a bar graph. I've
got a bar graph. I've got a line chart. I've got pie charts that tell us most people listen on Apple Pods, in case anybody is interested.
Okay, that's good to know. Well, we could nerd out about all the numbers forever, and probably will once we stop recording this episode. But what I'm fired up about, I don't know why. Okay, so I just ran into this word, rage baiting. And like my son actually used this word a couple of weeks ago, and it really accurately describes some of his behavior, but he does it in like a funny way. Like, he'll like act like he doesn't hear something, or like pretend he doesn't understand. And then I told him, I've told him before, somebody's going to think I'm a bad mother someday, because they're going to come across us having a conversation and realize that I'm just not listening to you. It's because I know who you are and you're trying to get me riled up about something. Anyhow, but like, so I've fallen for it again, but like, I just get so worked up sometimes when people are so intentionally ignorant that they're not even trying to like make the connections, or I feel like I'm being rage baited. And when people are like, you put a message out there and their response is so unconnected to the reality of what you said, right? They're just like, whatever. So like, I'm fired up today because of that same scenario where I was posting a bit this morning about, I don't know why we focus on this stuff, but it's just like one of the millions of examples of this regime's just ridiculousness. And right
Mm-hmm.
now, one of many things that we're talking about have to do with Trump and his medical exam and his MRI, right? Like,
Perfect
why?
MRI.
Ugh, perfect MRI. And my whole point right now is just like, is that, um, one, I've had to go just tooth and nail with insurance companies on three separate occasions to get approval to get an MRI,
Mm-hmm.
for different various reasons, not for myself and for family members. Just like, and that is so frustrating to have to convince the insurance companies to do what your doctor says
Yeah.
so that you can get a diagnostic test so you can find out what's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so frustrating. And Trump keeps talking about this MRI like it's just a normal like procedure that you get. Like every time you get an annual exam, they just run your whole body through an MRI machine, right? And like just look at all the things that are part of your body and then you get an MRI. And that's actually not what happens to normal people. But the rage baiting comes in when people come in and say things like, they'll comment on my post about that, like, well, he is rich, so like he is the president, so he gets better care. And it's just like, you're making my point for me. Why should rich people in our
Yeah.
country get better care? Like, why should, like, regardless of what the MRI says or doesn't say or whatever, like if your response to all of that is, well, he's rich and so of course he gets an MRI every year or a
Mm-hmm.
couple of times a year, like that is exactly the problem in our country, is that there's such a disparity in healthcare when people can like out of pocket afford, a ride in an MRI machine whenever they want it and get whatever like services or procedures done after what their doctors are seeing in the MRI results. And the rest of us are literally fighting for months and years with our insurance companies
Mm-hmm.
who are denying what our doctors want us to do in the
Yeah.
first place. And so like someone coming in and commenting like, after like my point is literally like, that's not normal. And if you've ever been sick or had a sick loved one, you would know that. And their point is, well, he's rich.
Yeah.
It is freaking frustrating as hell. So I have been baited and I'm enraged. And so I am fired up today. There's just like no reason for me to spend all this energy on this, but that's where I am today about
It's
that issue.
yeah, it's kind of like if I ever defend or talk about, and I do a lot, things like Medicare, Medicaid, SNAP, whatever kind of assistance, or Medicare for all, or whatever sorts of things that I think that we should do. I believe that the government should make sure, and I didn't say provide, I said make sure that
Mm-hmm.
everybody has health care, food, shelter, living wage, whatever. Like there are certain things that I think the government should help be involved in to make those things happen. Not give, not necessarily provide. Like there are different ways to make that happen for those that need it, etc. Anyway, so whenever I've posted anything like that, I get things like, well, fine, I guess we just give everybody a Ferrari and a mansion then. Dude, that's not what I said. I don't have a Ferrari and a mansion, and I don't expect anybody, including the government,
Oh
to
my
give me
God.
one, let alone anybody else.
Yeah, I know. I know. And I also know, like in my heart of hearts, that it doesn't help to be focused on this or respond or whatever. And I believe that, I have a pretty active Facebook uh, page that is from my days as a political candidate, and there's a couple thousand people in there. And I think that when I post something that hits a little close to home for MAGA folks, that's when
Mm-hmm.
I get MAGA
Yes.
comments when they get nervous. And when I
Yeah.
don't, then they don't. So I know that the rage baiting only comes when folks are feeling backed in a corner.
Uh-huh.
Um, and yet I still feel the rage. So
And
there
I
we
also
go.
think that some of those people are intuiting, I don't know if that's a word, what you're saying in a different way
Yeah.
necessarily. Like
Yeah.
they're saying you say it's not normal to get an MRI, and they're like, well, he's not sick. There's nothing wrong with him. Why are you thinking that? It's just because he's rich, which could be, or it could be fucking nuts, but
Yeah.
whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
but like people read something and I do the same thing and people do it to stuff that I say and they interpret it and like they'll comment and I'm like, could you please point out my post where I said any of that?
Yeah. Yeah. You're jumping off a mountain here
Yeah.
based on your interpretation.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think there's part of it that these little bits keep me like energized, and then there's part of
Uh-huh.
it where it's just like this is too much energy to be spending. And there's like a very fine line
Yes.
around, which is which.
Yes.
So, anyways, that's what I'm fired up about these days. Um, so today we're going to continue our series that really takes a deep dive into our blueprint, the Beyond Resistance Blueprint, which is our 7-page document that we've published out in the world to help local folks in traditionally red communities start to build blue power. We started our series with steps 1 and 2, right? And now we're
Yes.
going to take a deep dive into step 3. And step 3 is all about showing up in your community. So step 1 was about trying to flip the script between having transactional relationships to really forging deep transformational relationships. Step 2 was about navigating and understanding the power structures in your community. And step 3 is about the really critical and what seems simple but important to say, focus on just showing up, just being a presence in your community, regardless of whether or not the event or the thing that you're showing up for is political in any way.
Yeah. Yep.
Jennifer, what comes to your mind when we think about kind of step 3 and really showing up?
Um So there's just so many ways to show up. I mean, there's volunteer opportunities in your community. We plant flowers along Eastman Road every year. The Midland County Dems do, the Women of Michigan Action Network do. And you go out there with your t-shirts and sometimes if I remember, I bring our signs so that people know what our group is. And it's just this huge community event where you plant flowers along a particular stretch in Midland. Um, and it beautifies the area and everybody knows it's going to happen. It's just like this long-standing tradition and you get seen being out there. And there's so many other things. I mean, if there's a parade, we're generally going to sign up to be in it. There's different ways that we have volunteered for yeah, like food drives and doing various things in the community. We're at the fair every year. We're at the senior
Mhm.
expo twice a year, just to kind of be out there in the community and talking to people and being seen and not necessarily really looking for anything. Mostly we're just handing out candy in parades or doing
Yeah.
volunteer work or standing there talking to people if they want to. We're not super pushy about making people come talk to us. But yeah, that's a good kind of overall over, I don't know, 100 feet view of like what we do.
Yeah, totally. One thing that happened actually two nights ago, Saturday night. So um our friend Elena and I went to see the show Six,
Hmm.
which was showing here in Midland. After the show, we were waiting for our ride because we're princesses and it was a snowstorm and we didn't want to drive. So we made Elena's husband, Michael, come pick us up. And so we're waiting for a ride and we positioned ourselves kind of, you know, somewhat intentionally, but kind of right outside the doors for people who are walking out of the theater. And the number of people that stopped to talk to us, I mean, probably like 10 or 12 different groups
Uh-huh.
of people on their way out the door, because we're known.
Yeah.
I ran for office and I do stuff in the political space. Elena is a county commissioner. And so many people kind of coming out of that theater would be like, hey, Sarah, hey, Elena, and stop and talk to us and then be on their way. And so it's just cool because You're just sort of like, you don't have an agenda, you're just there, but you want to kind of continue to be a person who
Mm-hmm.
kind of pulls people together, and people like who are doing something totally different than politics are suddenly thinking about, okay, like there's Sarah, there's Elena,
Mm-hmm.
they're here out here with the rest of us, going to see this show or whatever. So that's just one like really small example of like, just think
Yeah.
about positioning yourself in a space where you're just there to say hi,
Yeah.
and get introduced, from other folks.
That's
Yeah.
something that annoys my children
Yeah, my
because
children too.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I do to some extent do that. Like if I go to their if I'm unless I'm in a bad mood, like just so everybody knows, I don't know what's going on with me. I might have fibromyalgia or I might have the flu. We're not sure which one at this point. And I'm not feeling well today. So if I were to go out to anything today, I would be like, just nobody talk to me. But normally I would go out to these things and I'm talking swim meets because two of my kids swim and two of my kids are in different orchestras and then one of my kids in the band and just whatever thing that we're going to go to, I'm looking around to see who do I know, who
Yeah.
might know me and like wants to come say hi but maybe doesn't really know me, and like sometimes if you make eye contact and it's like giving them a permission structure,
Mhm.
which is totally just the opposite of the person I used to be who would be like, I'm just going to put on my little blinders, pretend I don't know anybody. But now I'm like having conversations and kids are like, we need to go. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're fine. I can talk for a few minutes. Yeah. So my
Yeah.
kids would really like for me to stop being so friendly.
So do mine. My kids always say, "We can never leave anywhere, Mom. We can't ever just go."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, which I don't know. I think is amazing. I think our community is so amazing, and we've sort of like found each other, and found comfortable and safe spaces to kind of be who we are. It's just a beautiful thing to like run into folks out in the community.
Yeah.
Well, there's some examples of like kind of happenstance kind of
Mm-hmm.
being showing up in the community. There are other examples of being really kind of intentional, right? About showing up in the community at events, like you mentioned, the Midland Blooms, the flower event.
Yeah.
Um, one thing that always comes up for me as a story in this space has to do with my old campaign team really showing up in big ways after the flood here in
Yeah.
Midland and Sanford in 2020. So the short end of the story is we had massive rainstorms, a series of dams failed, and just catastrophic flooding, and the very middle of our community. And what we did as a campaign team right after that was basically, well, we had actually already switched our campaign team because it was during COVID to
Yeah.
full on mask making, and then we switched again to full on flood recovery. So we went out into the community, 12, 16 hours a day, just literally in the basements of community members,
Mm-hmm.
just full of mud, just mucking out everything, tearing down walls, pulling things out to the curb, um, helping get dehumidifiers going, and just really trying to help do that work. And then Elena, our friend, and who was also on my campaign team at the time, ended up kind of being the lead at one of the distribution centers in
Mm-hmm.
Sanford. And then the story I love to tell about that is pretty soon after all that happened, there was a bunch of community members who organized being able to provide hot meals every day, I think it was. Maybe it was every other day, but a couple times a week at least,
Yeah.
hot meals for folks who literally lost their whole house, or like
Mm-hmm.
did not have a kitchen anymore, or were living in campers or whatever.
Yeah.
And they organized the hot meals, and they organized being able to like put it all together and then hand it out. And so our group went out to do that hand it out part every chance that we got. And
Mm-hmm.
we were out there working side by side with a bunch of other volunteers, and people would pull up in their cars and we could hand deliver everything. And we were there just to help the community. And some of us would show up in my campaign t-shirts,
Mm-hmm.
not not required, but that just would happen to be what we would be wearing often
Mm-hmm.
because it was during the height of the campaign. And after, I don't know, a couple of weeks of that, this guy who was a volunteer who came and showed up to do the food distribution, um, he was there all the time too, and just mixing it up with all of us and all of that stuff. And he kind of picked his head up out of the food assembly line and he said, "Who is this Sarah Schultz person? You're always wearing t-shirts that say Sarah Schultz. Who is she? Looks like she's running for office, but where is she? She's never here. Why doesn't she show up here? And you're just showing up here." And I was like, "Hello, it's me. I'm Sarah Schultz. I'm the person whose name is on the t-shirt." And he was a little like, "Oh my gosh." Because I had literally been like shoulder to shoulder with
Yeah.
him
But
for
you weren't,
weeks. Yeah.
yes, but you weren't out there like, I am Sarah Schultz.
Right,
Check out my
right.
t-shirt. I am here to help. There was no
Exactly.
craziness about it. It was just show up and help, and we happen to be wearing those t-shirts. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember helping out on the food line a couple of times with my
Yeah.
kids. And then we also would go out to the center that Elena was running, which was in a
Mhm.
school with no air conditioning. It was the
Yeah.
worst. Just so everybody knows, it was summertime. It was so hot.
Oh my gosh.
Um, but yeah, because we had gotten flooded out too, and once we got to the point where we had cleaned out the basement, there was nothing I could help my husband do. And the kids,
Mhm.
I was like, let's just go to the center, help other people. The kids seemed to enjoy it. And we were out of my husband's hair while he was attempting to not have a breakdown over the fact that
Right.
we had a whole basement that needed to be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just one example, and obviously you don't need a natural disaster and
Hmm.
all of that to show up for your community, but it's really like a critical step, right? In this
Yeah.
building blue power is not, to not, because like when you feel like you're a blue dot, right? We always talk about these blue dots that are not actually blue dots. We all think we're blue dots, but we all are
And we're
blue
not.
dots living next to each other.
Hmm.
That so
Yeah.
part of this is just finding each other. A big part of this is finding each other. And so when you're doing that, you want to try to like start to build your coalition of folks and your community of folks who are also trying to build blue power. And you want to do that infused into the fabric of your community. You don't want to
Hmm.
do that outside of the fabric of your community. And so, so yeah, and through all of that work, I was thinking the other day about just how many people in this community that we know, and not all of them would call themselves Democrats, but
Hmm.
they are, there's some amazing non-Democrats in our community that we got to know through doing this community work, and it legitimizes us in our efforts
Yeah.
by showing up in other spaces as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is number 3, showing up in your community. And if you're kind of thinking about getting started, one of the things that we recommend to elevate your community presence is just to kind of look at a community calendar, right? Just start to identify some recurring community events, which might be like going to the farmers market, or it might look like a PTA meeting or even a school board meeting.
Hmm.
Um, there might be, local, baseball team or whatever. And think about how you might show up differently or just like intentionally in those spaces. And also how the other thing that we know is that bringing a group of people is more fun, first of all, but also more influential, right? So if you
Yeah.
show up with a group of 4 or 5 other friends, you're just there, you're doing a, volunteer opportunity for MLK Day in January or something. Showing up in that way is, opens the door and also starts to create again like this legitimacy that you might have that you're starting to build of your efforts in your community.
Yeah. And it doesn't, another thing, I mean, we kind of talked about it there for a second with Sarah and the food distribution. She wasn't going there and making a speech. And that's one thing that you don't, and it doesn't always have to be you. Like if you're a candidate, okay, then you are going to have to go to a lot of different things. But if you're an organization that's just trying to, make inroads into your community, if you've got different people, like, okay, you go to the city council meeting and you go to the county commission meeting and you go to the PTA. Don't think that it all has to fall on you. Distribute that and make, if you have one leader of an organization, it kind of, I don't want to say delegitimizes, but if it's one person that seems to be driving everything and that's the only thing anybody cares about is that one leader, it makes it less of a threat to the other side. It makes it less of a thing that people want to join, I think. But if you have many people who are leaders and they're all coming together to work on this together and they all do a separate part, I think that's better
Yeah.
personally.
Leaders or participants or whatever,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
because
But
we're
just
not the
showing up
Trump cult.
in force. Yeah. Yeah. Although I got I got accused of being a cult leader a few times during my experiences here, but I am not.
No.
Uh,
I mean, we did too, but we were joking.
well, we all walked around this purple and we were
Yeah,
just like this massive group of folks and blah blah blah.
we did look
Anyways,
a little culty.
a little bit, but it worked. All right. Well, so that's step 3. And we're going to get on to the rest of our 5 steps for building blue power, which can be downloaded at beyondresistancepod.com. We do go there and also check out our recordings and also all the other amazing content that Jennifer has been working on at our website. But before we go, I do have a fun question
Okay.
for us to end with, and it's cheating. So because mine is obvious. So I'm going to share mine to anyone who hasn't been listening to me talk about this for days, but and then I'm going to ask you what yours is. So yesterday was my birthday, but it is
Mm-hmm.
also International Tuna Noodle Casserole Day. Um,
Wait,
Now
is that for real or is that Sarah's version of?
it's I have applied for it to be a day.
Okay,
I'm just waiting for an email confirmation, but I went
got
onto
it.
the website and I've applied for it to be a day. So I'm speaking it into existence that it is.
Got it.
Even if I get denied, then it still will be. So tuna noodle casserole day is my birthday, and on tuna noodle casserole day, I make my own tuna noodle casserole. I make my own tuna noodle casserole because my family hates it. And I make it because I love it. It reminds me of my mom and my childhood, and I just like it. I just like tuna noodle casserole. I like it. And I don't make it any other time of year because I know I'm the only one who will eat it. And
Yeah.
so why, like as a parent and a caregiver, like if I'm gonna make a dinner, like I've got to please everybody else too. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna please myself. So I decided a couple years ago that on my birthday I would make myself a tuna noodle casserole. I would make it myself, even though it's my birthday, because I would make sure to make it correctly the way my mom would. Um, and I would have it all to myself. I wouldn't let my family eat it. No, they don't
They
want
don't
it,
care.
but I don't care. I always make a big point to let them know they can't have any of it. But that's my birthday tradition
Okay.
for that day. So my question is, I have created this day of tuna noodle casserole day, not because I want everyone to eat casserole, but because I think that it's important for people, especially in caregiving kind of roles, um, to identify the things that they like, that make them happy, that
Mm-hmm.
fill their cup, and even if no one else likes those things or would appreciate them, and to at least have one day where you do the thing. Like if I didn't do this for my birthday, I would probably go decades before I had
Uh-huh.
tuna noodle casserole, even though I love it. So that's a big lead up. So my answer is tuna noodle casserole. But Jennifer, what is your one thing? Like, what is your tuna noodle casserole? The thing, and I know your birthday is coming up. I'm not suggesting what you do on your birthday, but maybe this is something to think about. What is the thing that you makes you happy that maybe other people aren't happy, and you kind of sacrifice that thing? And you should do it for yourself sometime.
I don't know. I don't think it's any particular food because we sort of do that. Like, if there's literally only one person in the whole house that likes a food, then we're never gonna make it, just like you
But
said.
what would that be? Is
I
there one
know,
thing
but
that
I
you
don't
like?
think that there is anything food-wise. But I would say having the house picked up and cleaned up
Mm,
is like I used to be, my two oldest children can attest to this. I was everything has to be in its place. I wanted their rooms picked up all the time, but they were little kids, so that didn't always happen. So at the very least, it's in your room. But even
mhm.
then, I would just be like, I cannot take this anymore. We would haul everything out, organize it, put it all back. Like, I need my house organized. And the more children I had, the more I had to accept
Yeah.
that that was not going to take place, especially when we lived in Harbor Beach and we had a much smaller house.
Mm,
It felt so cluttered. Like, I felt my brain hurt all the time, and I had to figure out a way to dissociate from that. So I
mhm,
am much less about that now. But we cleaned up because we had Friendsgiving on Saturday and we had my
mhm.
family over on Sunday. So the house got reasonably picked up. And I was walking through this morning and I was just like,
Yeah.
this feels so beautiful. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. I mean, it just makes me feel so good to not
Yeah.
have clutter and stuff everywhere.
Yeah. That's a great one. And here's the thing, like, so I love that you're interpreting that as like that is for you. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, and I agree. Like when my house is full of clutter and when my eyeballs can't rest anywhere and I like that is calming to me. Like if
Yes.
I look around and I'm like, I can't look that way because I'm gonna be obsessed with doing this, picking this thing up. And if just
Yeah.
like if I can't rest in a place that doesn't have clutter, and it's not because I'm trying to like you know, have a beautiful house because like whatever society makes me. It's literally makes
Uh-huh.
me happy to have a
Yes.
beautiful like to have a house that is picked up. It makes my brain feel so much better
Yeah.
than like it's cool to recognize that. Like do this for me. Do this for
Mm-hmm.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, and like my house has never, will never look like a magazine. I'm not trying to achieve magazine level gorgeousness, but just not having any Legos scattered across the living room floor, and we vacuumed because there were no Legos scattered across the living room floor, and just the island doesn't have piles of papers. Now, granted, now the piles of papers are on the other desk, but that's not but it's one pile.
Yeah. No, I know
And just
exactly what
little
you're
stuff
talking
like
about.
that.
Yeah. And when I so I travel a bit for work and when I travel for work now, when I come home my house is usually picked up because my husband knows that that makes me happy,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so he does it. He doesn't care. Like he's not his tolerance for clutter is way higher than mine, but
Mm-hmm.
he's come to know that it just is good for me. Like it's good
Yeah.
for me to have a house that is like organized. It's good for my mental health. And so, and when I described it in that way, then he's like, "Of course I'll help you." If I
Yeah.
described it in like our house needs to be clean because our just does it just needs to be then like
Mm-hmm.
there would be so much more resistance to that. But it's like this is
Mm-hmm.
the thing that makes me happy. So I'm glad that
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of describing it in that way because I think
Yeah.
I totally resonate with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it drives my daughter nuts because she is like me, but times 10.
Uh-huh.
And she lives alone. So everything is exactly the way she wants it and magazine perfect. So then she comes to visit us and it just it messes with her head. And I'm like, I know exactly what you're saying. I'm really
Yeah.
sorry because
Yeah.
there's only so much I can do about it for your mental
Right.
health.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, so your tuna noodle casserole is having your house cleaned.
yes,
I
I'll
love it.
have to tell Craig and the boys that. We'll
Yeah.
see if that happens.
There you go. Do it for you. It's
Yes.
the only reason. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for listening in to our weekly podcast of the Beyond Resistance Pod. This is where we share hard-won insights to build blue power in red communities and start winning. Check us out on all the places where you get your pods, and also check out our website at beyondresistancepod.com. And we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You can listen to the Beyond Resistance podcast on all major platforms. Leave us a review to boost this episode and help us reach more blue dots and red seas. Follow us on social media and like, share, comment to increase our reach. Subscribe to our Patreon and gain access to our private Discord channel and make monetary donations of support through Venmo. You can find all of this and more at beyondresistancepod.com. Beyond Resistance is a Beyond Resistance LLC production. Producers Jennifer Austin and Sarah Schultz. Editing Jennifer Austin. Theme song We Run the Room by Shadow Kitten.